Welcome to the Arcfluence podcast, where we talk about how design impacts the way we live, work, and invest. I'm Nick Kirakan, your host, and with me today is Paul Fatkins. How are you, Paul?
Good. No Nino today, unfortunately.
No.
But that's all right. We have someone else. Right?
We have an amazing guest today. I'm really excited to jump into this. It was a lot of fun. Jessie Lang, who I've known for several years now here in Columbus, Ohio. She's an investor, a coach, and an author of her new book, Rentals Made Easy. I'm excited to get into this.
This will be a good talk.
All right, well, let's get into it. Jessie, welcome to the show. It's so good to have you.
Hi, thanks for having me, Nick.
Now,
and Paul, don't forget about me.
And Paul.
We'll give Paul some credit.
I was going to say, I am in the room, so, yeah.
Jessie, I've known you for several years. You actually helped me run COIN, Central Ohio Investors Network, here in Columbus, which we can dig into a little bit. But I'm really excited for everything that's happening to you in your life right now. Not just all the things you've been working on so hard the last 5, 6, 7 years, but some of the recent successes that you've had that I've heard you talk about and made happen. So with that said, I'd love for you, and you do this in your book. Let's talk about Unlocked. And kind of like in your book, you actually talk about your journey. So let's hear a little bit more about that experience, Craigslist, shag carpet, all the good and all the bad.
Yes, it's been a wild ride. And, you know, a lot of people look at me and they're like, there's no way you've been buying real estate for like 13 years. And I'm like, actually, yes, I have. So, thanks for having me. Like I said, my name is Jessie Lang, and I am a buy and hold investor here in Columbus, Ohio. I know Nick through COIN and through being a great friend and all that. My story started actually back in Austin, Texas. So I'm not from Ohio. I did not grow up here. I didn't go to college here. I did all that down in Texas. And part of my kind of learning and, you know, growing up, becoming an adult was to buy a house. They tell you go out there and buy a house. So I bought this crappy little condo in Austin, Texas.
I was going to ask, was your first one in Austin versus here in Columbus?
Yep. First one, Austin, Texas. It was owner occupant financing. I put pretty much my life savings down.
As we do.
At that time was $3,000.
Yeah.
And I joke that the bank had no business giving me that loan. Like, I did not qualify.
What year was this? Was this before all the turmoil where they were giving like loans to anybody sort of thing?
So it was actually after 2012.
Oh, really?
Honestly,
I'm like, I should not. They really should not.
Yeah.
Jessie, that's when I bought my first house.
2012.
Yeah.
Okay, twinsies.
Yeah. I remember buying the first property for us as well, and it was painful going through all the bank stuff, you know.
I joke that I had my first nervous breakdown during that process where I laughed at something that someone said, and it turned into like crying for an hour. And I learned later that that's a nervous breakdown. But, you know, I've been good since then.
So, gosh, I have those often then.
Where laughing leads to like hysterical crying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really stressful, but we got through it. And, you know, I had my kind of big girl job right out of college. I was making $35,000, if that, $32K maybe.
Back then, that was a lot, though, right? I think my first job was like $39,000 a year, and I felt like I'm winning.
I'm not gonna say how old you are that day.
Yeah. Fair.
It's like $12 an hour was like outlandish. Was like, wow,
that's a good point.
I made it.
You were also in Austin, so I digress.
Yeah. And, so I knew that. I mean, on paper, I could afford the mortgage, but it just wouldn't be the life. I wouldn't be able to do anything, right? I'd be house poor, and I didn't want that. So I rented out some rooms in my house. I had some Craigslist roommates over the years that some were good, some were bad. One is to this day like one of my best friends in the world. One I could never see again and be just fine. And so it was a wide range of people, but the fact is they were basically paying my mortgage for me.
Awesome.
And I covered some of the bills, and that kind of was it. So I was able to save quite a bit. So that went on for a couple of years.
And we call that house hacking today.
Yeah, house hacking. I did not know it was a term. I just knew that I had people paying me money in exchange for space in a property.
Love it.
Yeah, it worked out. One of the people paying was my partner at the time. And so a couple years into this gig, we actually ended up splitting up. I knew that it would be crazy to sell the property. I knew that I couldn't just pay for a vacant property. And I knew that emotionally, like, it was going to be hard for me to live there. So in a span of 2 weeks, I went from living my everyday normal life to renting a room from a friend, moving in with her, and having 4 college boys renting my little condo.
Terrifying.
And I just, yeah, terrifying. Oh, well, in hindsight, totally terrifying.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, great, there's more of them. They have to pay less. It's more likely they're going to pay, you know, and they did pay. They stayed for a couple years. They actually were great residents, and they could have ruined my real estate career way before it started, but they were good. And so I was like figuring this all out, like literally in a matter of weeks. And I was all of a sudden a landlord.
And how did that feel?
You know, it didn't feel too different, I guess, because I had been renting the rooms. So I had some semblance of what to do, just never, like, I always had oversight. So it was a little bit nerve-wracking because, like, I couldn't see what was going on.
Now, this is the beginning of the journey, so there's lots of chaos. And even people who I talk to who want to get into investing, I can see it in their eyes, like, there's just so many unknowns because we haven't done it yet, and they're terrified. And then I love how you basically, the overall arching theme in your book is essentially like chaos to order, right? Where we create systems that now you make a mistake and like, okay, well, we need a system for that. You make another mistake, we need a system for that. So
I wish I could say it was like a linear process, but like absolutely not. Like I would figure out one thing and then make a mistake somewhere else and then have to figure that out. And then, so it was very, you know, 1 month you think you got it and then the next month you're rock bottom. It was kind of a roller coaster, but I think we're past a lot of that now.
No, I get it. So tell us, how did this turn into multiple properties and what led you to Columbus?
Yeah, what took me to Columbus? Okay, so I roomed up with a friend of mine at the time. I did that for 6 months and I still had some income, right, from my long-term rental and of course my W-2. So I saved up enough after, 6 or so months and I bought another property myself. I moved in, I got some Craigslist roommates. They were better this time. I knew more what I was looking for.
Yeah. This sounds like so basically the first time you did it and the second time you did a very similar approach. So in other words, you bought a property, you were finding people to live with you initially, right? In that second property. So pretty much same thing, rinse and repeat from the first process.
Yep. And then fast forward a year, I did it a third time. And so I was living with roommates at my house I was in. I had 2 long-term rentals and I had my W-2, and at this point, all my bills are paid. And after that, I think I was cash flowing like maybe $1,000 a month on top of my little W-2.
You're rich.
And that was and that's just 3 basically units or properties that you had.
Well, I was buying them owner-occupant financing, so we were getting preferred terms. But yes, yeah. And so this is like 2015 at this point. And I still have no idea that I'm a real estate investor. No idea. I just thought that I was, crafty and could, figure things out and had some extra cash flow coming in.
You're more comfortable with this than the stock market, whatever this is.
I mean, it's like a tangible asset. I could put my hands on it. And I think it was easy starting out because I had lived in each of the properties I was renting out. So like no one could pull over anything. Like you can't tell me that was broken or, anything because I lived there. And so it made it a little bit more digestible to, become a landlord that way.
And these 3 properties are all down in Austin still?
All in Austin.
Okay.
2 are actually like in basically the same neighborhood.
Okay.
I really had to explain to the bank why I was buying the second house that was in the same, or the third one is in the same neighborhood as the second one. And it was a little bit less than a year. And so the banks were asking a lot of questions about like, why are you moving like 3 streets over?
Yeah. So Fast forward to today. How many doors do you now have, if you don't mind me asking you?
So my 3 little doors in Austin, 10 years later, we're at about 75.
Jeez.
Here, majority in Columbus. I have sold everything in Austin over the years. We've moved those proceeds up to the Midwest.
Yeah.
And yeah, about 75 here. And it has been a fantastic, wild ride.
I love it. So what got you to Columbus? Was there a specific reason? And because, listen, Columbus right now is a great place to invest. Most people are having success. If you make a mistake, you have a little bit of a buffer that saves you or makes you look that much better or that much smarter. So tell me why Columbus, and then I would love to talk about your systems and getting into.
Yeah, I want to hear Nick's why Columbus too, because obviously he came from somewhere else to Columbus himself.
And I can do that. I chose Columbus
so I want to
specifically.
I want to hear Jesse's answer, but then I want to hear yours too. I came because Nick was here. So it was kind of like we had family that was here as well, but Nick's like, you had to come. He was trying to get me to come to New York. And I'm like, no, that's not going to happen. And then he ended up coming to Columbus. But yeah, let's hear the why Columbus from Jessie.
It's a great place to be right now. And mine was a whole lot less intentional than Nick's. So 2016 or 2015 rolls around. I have been at my big girl job for 4 years now. I'm getting pretty antsy. You know, I've made some moves up, but not really. It's just not really it. And so I saw a Facebook ad for a program called Remote Year. And the idea is you travel with a big group of people, and we lived in 12 countries for 1 month each. It was 75 of my now lifelong best friends. I met my wife during that year of travel, and I was able to pay for it through savings and through 3 rental properties.
Wow.
Yeah. And so 2016, you know, we're wrapping up our year. We're in month 11, month 12. And I knew I didn't want to go back to Austin. My wife didn't want to go back to New York City where she had been living before. So I didn't really have a job that year. I was on, we call Team Hangout. So I was just kind of hanging out, doing whatever. And so I'm like, well, I should probably get a job. So during that year, I had come across a company that I really admired, and they happened to be hiring, and it happened to be in Columbus, Ohio. As a little Texan, Texas public schools, I couldn't even tell you where Ohio was on a map. And so we just were.
We're not. We won't unpack that too much.
I'm not judging. I'm not judging you.
I mean, it was pretty bad, and so we're like Googling, like, okay, Columbus is pet friendly, it's, you know, gay friendly, and the real estate's cheap. I'm like, let's do it.
And cash flow is good.
Yeah.
And we had been living in 12 countries just randomly, so we were like, this is month 13. If we don't like it, then we'll just leave. And that was 8 years ago.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've been here a little over 8 years as well, and that's wild. And we met shortly after that. Yeah. And I came here intentionally.
Yeah. I was going to say, you did research. You mapped out different areas, right?
I looked at cities like Austin and Seattle and all the places you want to, I'm doing air quotes, want to live.
Yeah. Well, cities that had an upward trend in terms of opportunity, right, potential. Yeah. Like there was growth that was in all of the cities you were looking at.
So if you look at the very large cities of the United States, you know, some of that opportunity is scaled down a bit. There's more risk, there's more expense, right? So there's less upside. However, that's where you want to be. I'm coming from New York City. I want to stay in kind of a big city environment. I like that atmosphere. I like that lifestyle. So I was looking for cities that were, you know, similar. And I quickly found that they were too similar in terms of where can my money go the farthest. Mm-hmm. So we started looking at more mid-sized towns with the potential to become big cities and where we can really capitalize on our investments. And Columbus checked almost all the boxes. I wanted more sunshine. I wanted a little bit warmer weather, but we still get all 4 seasons here. And I stumbled on a beautiful all-brick fourplex in Grandview, and we ended up, I mean, the intent was for us to actually take our RV and keep traveling, but we ended up staying. So.
Yeah, and looking back, no regrets from either side, right? Jessie, no regrets coming to Columbus, Nick?
No, not at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
So Jessie,
It's become the real estate network here is just so incredible, and the people are so good and so genuine, and we all like. There's so little drama, and everyone really just wants to help each other that you can't find that a lot of other places.
yeah. I want to talk a little bit. So obviously our podcast is design heavy, but we also talk about how we live, work, and invest, right? So I think by creating systems, it allows us to live better. And of course, we're investing here. So let's talk about how did you scale to 75? Like, that's incredible. Tell us when you got here, like, was that even the plan?
No. When we moved to Columbus in 2017, I was working a W-2. I still have my 3 rentals in Austin, but I moved here for a W-2. I had afforded to travel the world for a year through real estate, and I was like, oh, let me go get a job. Like, what was I thinking? And so I still didn't take real estate seriously. I still didn't see myself as an investor, anything like that.
Is there a defining moment? Is there a defining moment where you're just like...
So I was up, I work so hard. Everything I do, I'm giving it 110%, but I was doing it for someone else. I came up for a raise, asked for very modest, in hindsight, very modest raise. Was denied. Yeah. And it wasn't anything I did. It was like, it's not in the budget, that. So I gave my notice and wrapped up all my projects, gave 60 days notice, which is so generous, wrapped up all my projects, and all of a sudden I was a full-time real estate investor. The 18 months that I was at the Columbus W-2, I was going to real estate meetups, I was coming to Coin, I was going to, all sorts of different things. I was paying for education. I had spent some of my money on like a little wholesale academy on how to wholesale. So I was crying up. Yeah.
How many houses?
On my kitchen floor.
When you gave your notice and giving up your main stream of income, essentially.
3.
Oh my gosh! So you were a full-time investor with only 3 under your belt?
But I was gonna wholesale, Nick. I was gonna wholesale.
Okay. Great.
I was gonna have
of course you were. So how long did it take you to replace that income with wholesaling?
Oh, replace my income? I'll tell you about my first deal.
Okay.
It was 6 months after going full-time real estate. It took me 6 months to figure this out. And thankfully, that was when I sold one of my first properties, is to kind of keep this going.
Yeah.
But that first deal that I finally got under contract and got all the way through the whole wholesale process, made $5,000. And it just felt like all the money in the world. All the money in the world.
And the fact that this can work.
Yeah, that's what it was. It's like, I did it. If I did it once, I can do it again and again and again. And so, I did. That's the next 2 years here in Columbus. I pretty much wholesaled everything because no one taught me about hard money and private money. I just didn't even know how my buyers were actually buying these. When you say like cash, I thought they had like literal cash.
Yeah. And I'm curious, when you say wholesale, like what exactly do you mean by that? Because to me, I hear that and it's like, okay, but like what exactly is that process? Like,
Paul's
step
an
one,
incredible architect.
Treat me like I have no idea because I don't.
Because he doesn't.
I was going to say because I don't. And like, give me a little more of what exactly it is to wholesale, for income.
Okay. So if you have seen the like We Buy Houses billboards or signs on the side of the road, if you've gotten a text, if you've gotten a cold call.
I've actually been seeing it now like on YouTube advertisements like, oh, I'll buy your house,
Yeah. There are TV ads, like any way that investor can get in front of someone who may be in a distressed situation. Like, I tried Facebook ads. I've done pay-per-click.
I've knocked on doors.
Door knocking.
We got a property that way at one point.
Yeah. You tell the lady that's doing your groceries that you buy houses and hand her a cart. Like, just
everybody.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so The idea as a wholesaler is I'm going to get the property under contract. I'm going to do all the due diligence. I'm going to get it, under contract at a price that makes sense for me to both take a fee and sell the contract to an end buyer, and they still make money. So it's a win for the seller, a win for the wholesaler, and a win for the buyer. And so, it's essentially
so you're like
a middleman.
You're like the middleman facilitator of the deal and the transaction. You kind of make things move.
Correct. So we're going out to do the marketing. I say I'm not doing this anymore, but at the time we are, getting the title work done, making sure a title's actually clear, talking to a lot of the, motivated sellers. They're from
educating these people.
Yeah. They're from all walks of life. They may have inherited the house. They've never sold or bought a house. They don't really know how it works. So we're walking all the parties through the process and getting it through the closing table. And then at closing, you take your fee.
Okay.
And then when did you? So all this is happening. You're not holding anything yet. Oh my gosh, so much opportunity there, because wholesalers, you can cherry pick all your best deals, and you're just selling everything.
Now.
And I get it. But like, when did you get your first help? Like, when did you get an assistant or an employee or somebody to help you, a 1099 contractor? Like, are you doing this all by yourself?
Yeah. No, I couldn't pay anyone. I didn't have any money. So it wasn't, I was doing it all myself. And it wasn't for a while that I actually brought someone on. I would probably honestly say too late, not for like years later. And so I was wholesaling all of my own contracts, but I was still buying properties. I was just buying them conventionally because I didn't know about hard and private money. So I was making my little wholesales. I was saving up the money. I was turning that into my 20% down payments. I was paying for my renovations out of pocket. I was buying all the wrong kind of deals. I really didn't know.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's explain what hard money and private money is real quick, and then how did that change the game? When did that happen? And then what actually happened?
I was gonna say, and was it somebody that told you like, hey, why aren't you doing it this way, sort of thing? Was that like at Coin you started to hear about some of these things and you're like, oh?
So I learned about hard and private money as I was learning the BRRRR method, which is how I've scaled my portfolio. And so it stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. The hard and private money was so important because the goal on a BRRRR is that you're going to have some money down on the purchase. You're going to have some money into the rehab. But the idea is that you force the value of the property enough by buying it cheap and by doing renovations and by putting in a market rate tenant, that by the time you get to the refinance section, you've increased the value enough that you can pull out all of your initial investment. So you can pull out your own down payment, you can pay back your hard and private money, which I'll talk about, and you can, because those loans up front, those are short term. Typically, they're going to be 12 months max. We typically don't need the money near that long, 6 months probably on average.
And I'm usually holding on to it a little longer than that because my renovations are more extensive. But like,
it's because you're too picky with the design side.
Well, thank you,
Jesse. You're doing too much.
Well,
sometimes.
Okay, so I digress. So hard.
He's like, let's not talk about my timeline.
If I borrow a hard money loan, I'm typically going to be paying more money, more interest, right? But because it's a short-term loan, if the numbers still work out and you got to have your charts and you got to know the calculations, it's still worth it. It allows you to get in the game and scale. So, and they typically evaluate each deal. They don't look at you as an individual necessarily. They look at the deal. So they can finance this deal based on if you're buying it at a good price and adding value to it with that renovation. So, and of course, if you have some experience under your belt, they're more likely to lend you more.
Yeah, we had Liz. We had Liz on as well at one point, and she was kind of basically saying that's exactly that. It's all about the deal, and if the deal makes sense, right, it has nothing to do with the person. It's either a good deal or not, right? It works or it doesn't. It's all a numbers thing, really.
So Jesse, you discover hard money and private money, and your entire universe opens up, and you just happen to be really good at systems because you're, and this is what I love about you. You put your mind to something, and everything else doesn't even exist, and that thing is the only thing that's on the table right now.
My poor wife.
That's what we're doing. This is what we're doing, everybody.
Yeah.
So you just took off.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I had been now at this point wholesaling, direct to seller marketing for 2 years, but I wasn't keeping any of my own contracts. I was selling them all. I look back and I kind of kick myself, but that's what I needed at the time. And so, once I discovered the BRRRR method, this is in hard and private money. And basically private money is just the hard money concept, but from individuals, friends, and family instead of like a corporation.
So less restrictions, usually a little bit easier on, draws and things of that nature.
And typically on private money, we're borrowing 100% of purchase and rehab. So I have no money out of pocket. Whereas, hard money is going to be very common is 90% of purchase and 100% of rehab. So here in our market, that leaves me at about like 8 to 15K down.
Yeah, honestly, like some of my first flips, I didn't know enough people with private money to go all in on us with us or trust us enough with that much money. So we actually got 90% or 80% of hard money, and then we went to a private lender and got the other 10 to 20%. And it was like it's nerve-wracking. You're putting a lot of other people's money on the line, none of yours, but you still have to pull this off.
So I actually do second position lending for our students. So I will do what you did is like someone comes in for private money to fill in, we call fund the gap, like fill in that last down payment. So I do that for our students. And so I'm pretty comfortable there.
Great.
Yeah. So figure out how to buy. I have had 2 years of like deal sources coming in, right? Deals are coming in, and I finally have like hacked how to keep them myself. And so that first year, I had my 3 in Austin. We acquired 8 more to get to 11 doors. So January 2021, I had 11 doors that I all bought the wrong way. I would not be proud of any of those deals.
And this is what triggered the systems.
Yeah. And so that first year of putting all the pieces together, I went from 11 doors. We bought 22 more. So we had 33 in like my first calendar year, really like scaling a portfolio. The next year we bought 25. We've been pretty consistent, 20 to 25 doors a year since then.
Wow.
Yeah. Jeez. Is the plan to continue with the same trend, or is it kind of like now you're to the point where you're like 75 is good, let's weed out some of the underperforming and just look at like higher performing assets in certain areas, et cetera?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I have slowed down since rates have gone up. Last year we bought about 12, 13, so about half, just because the numbers didn't pencil the way that they used to, right? You can't throw spaghetti and find a good deal. And I had actually stopped wholesaling in Q2 2022. So that was about the time rates started moving. And so I slowed down. I'm still buying from other wholesalers. I'm buying off the MLS, but I did slow down. And so kind of going to the future, I have sold off a lot of what I call my early mistakes. I've sold off a few
learnings, not mistakes, learnings, right?
Yeah. I mean, but I learned. I have no problem.
Me too, Jessie. Me too.
Yeah. So I've sold off some of those. We're still buying, but I've been pretty consistent between, selling and acquisitions at that 70, 75 range for really the last 18 months. It's a pretty comfortable range. I think we'll get a little bit higher, but I don't see more than 100 single family homes before kind of switching to maybe some bigger things.
Oh, well, is it too soon to talk about that? What is that legacy? What is the next steps? And I know you talk.
Nick,
so when you say,
tell me.
Yeah. And when you say 75 doors, is it all single family homes that you have?
Majority.
Or condos or whatever?
Yeah, so majority is single family, which is my preference. People tend to stay longer. They make it more of a home. We can charge more on a per door basis. But we do also have 2 6 units and a 4 unit. Everything else is single family.
Yeah, and all long-term rental, I guess, is the other question too.
Yep, all long-term rental. my focus, and anyone trying to scale, I recommend put some long-term renters in there, because your time and energy is best spent on acquisitions. If you are managing Airbnbs, even if you have a property manager,
team of people to manage,
there's so many moving parts. And I know you guys like obviously are Airbnb, and so I don't think it's a bad strategy by any means, but I just know for me that my time was best spent looking at deals. And so I was putting long-term people in place and focusing on acquisitions. We are now at the point, I have a couple that I'm like about to experiment with some midterm stuff, but it's going to take a good amount of my time.
Yeah, and honestly, midterm is that gray area where you're just dipping your toe, because you're still signing the leases, but now you have a furnishing component, and the neighborhood also have to make sense. So you're probably in nicer neighborhoods. It's just probably your B class or maybe your A class properties. And you're right. I always say there's 12 different ways, a dozen different ways to make money in real estate. And sometimes, 9 out of the 12 ways aren't exciting for you or the next person. So you need to pick and choose where you feel comfortable and where you want to thrive. And you've obviously found your lane, which is amazing, because after you started seeing all the success, I could see the change in you. We started running Coin together, and I could see you going from more of a sponge to more of a leader. And I see you where your confidence has changed, and where you're like, the answers to all the questions. You're now connecting people, building relationships, and doing all these things on a much larger scale. Creating a coaching program, creating a group, a community of people that you're now teaching. And then becoming an author.
Yeah. Becoming an author, yes.
So, I'm kind of curious. So, can you tell us, or share one of your learning experiences? What's something that sticks out the most in terms of, this really stuck with me and it informed what I did next, or it, again, is there some certain point where you got past 20, 30 doors and you're like, oh, I got to change something? Is there some learning moment that really sticks out to you that you can share with everyone?
Yeah, for sure. So for a long time, up to 20-ish, 25 doors, I was doing everything myself. So I was getting the contracts in the door, negotiating with sellers, putting them in contract, keeping what I was going to keep, wholesaling the rest, managing all the rentals we have, refinancing, managing the renovations.
And when did you sleep?
Yeah. Jeez.
I know it was a lot, and you guys do a lot too. So you know how it is. You just figure out how to balance it. But it was a lot, and so I was overlooking a lot of things. I wasn't doing proactive inspections. I was just hope, a wish, and a prayer that people paid rent on time and didn't trash the place. And so it was a couple of years into scaling, year and a half in, that I had a bit of a wake up call, a little rock bottom moment, and I had essentially a vacation ruined by a maintenance call. And
I love this story in your book.
Yeah, it was a 4-unit building, and I was on a boat in the middle of the Tampa Bay, dressed as a pirate, as you do, and I get a video, or a video text to my personal cell phone, because they all had my personal cell phone, that her entire bathroom ceiling had just crashed in the whole thing. It's soaking wet. There's water dripping everywhere. Just tragedy.
Yeah.
And I realized I don't really have a team. It's a Saturday. I don't really have a plumber. I don't really have anyone to help. So here I am.
And this is still when you were doing everything yourself, like you said, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so coming off, I figured it out, of course, like I usually do. And coming off of that trip, I was like, never again. I cannot be the sole responsible party, because think about, we're dealing with people's housing. This is something that you should not take lightly. If you're thinking about getting into real estate and you think you can just buy it and never look at it again, and no, you're in a relationship with people on a long-term basis. And if you're Airbnb, maybe not so much, but we're putting year-long leases in place where I'm going to be working with this person. I have a commitment to them, and so that cannot just fall on me. That was a wake up call. It was too much. And so I went back, I put systems in place. I hired someone who was just hourly, was helping with, started very, very small and just kind of built over time. She was with me for 2.5 years, and we continued to build out responsibilities and systems and processes and all that. She's actually gone off to do her own projects, which I'm super proud of, but I have hired someone else full-time in-house that really manages the portfolio with my oversight.
Amazing.
And so, yeah. And so, I've learned all the mistakes you can learn because I'm sure I'm still learning mistakes, but I've made so many, and I just try to learn from each one. And I pass that down to my team and to my students. So the idea is that we're not making the same mistakes over and over.
Your book has actually helped rejuvenate some of my thought process when I first started investing, because I didn't get into long-term rentals because I could only afford in certain neighborhoods, and I just felt a little bit overwhelmed. And I really wanted to, it really was a scalable thing, right? And I didn't understand the whole BRRRR method when I first started investing either. And there's just so many different variables that come into play. So I guess if the question for me was that also intimidated me is I would hire, I would think I would need to hire a management company, but that's not the case. Could you give some negatives on maybe why or just some reasoning on why you decided to do this in-house on your own, without a third-party management company managing your portfolio?
Yeah, so my story is long and winding, and we can't talk about everything, and so I kind of left this out, but I will say I did hire management. I was with a property management company for a little under a year, where that time I was finding that I was spending as much time managing them as I was just doing it myself, because I was doing it myself prior. So I was spending as much time managing them. I was getting a bill instead of a check. The month would come up and I would somehow owe them more than they collected in rent.
Wait.
Jeez. Yeah, this sounds like not a really, really fun way to go about things. So.
So you're looking at this and you're getting a bill and you're like, something's not right here. And again, I had been doing this since way back in my Craigslist rent by the room days. And so I'm a little bit of a, I can do it better kind of person. I'm reformed. Yeah. I'm trying to learn, I'm trying to get over that. But that was my attitude at the time. I was like, I can do this better. Yeah. So I brought everything else back in the house, and that's when I hired. And so I had property management. I see and this is not anything with any particular company or investor, just the industry setup. There is a conflict of interest at almost every step of the process. It's like, I want the best resident, and they often want the first resident, right? I want, if we have a maintenance request in, there was one in particular, it was a hot water tank that immediately they go to replace it. And I'm like, whoa. Let's take a step back here. What, is it a part that's wrong? Is it, is the gas off? Is,
it could be as simple as a loose electrical connector or something.
Yep. I think what you're trying to say is they're doing what's best for them and not necessarily what's best for you.
Yeah. What's quickest and easiest for them. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And again, it's not anything I don't think it's malicious. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
We're all just trying to get through the day, and they're people, and they're just like, how do I get this off my plate as fast as possible? Just replace the thing. And I'm like, no. Let's take a step back. Let's look at repairing it. Let's look at all this stuff. So those are things that we do now that definitely save a lot of money. So it wasn't just the leasing or, their monthly fee. It was the maintenance markups. It was the lack of due diligence on some of these things that I was not making money. None. I owed money.
Yeah.
Well, it's safe to say that today you're making money.
Yeah.
We are making money.
I will say too, I kind of understand your mindset a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to give up control, right? You just want to be, especially if it's your property, it's your investment, right? You want to have some oversight. But I mean, like, especially if you have a company that, again, they're just kind of not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Again, it's hard to pull back and just be like, okay, especially if you're not even making money at the end of the day and they're just costing you money.
Right. It was, I mean, I was giving a lot of benefit of the doubt. I probably could have figured out after 4 months instead of 8, 9, 10 that it wasn't working out, but we were trying different things. And I mean, finally I was just like, hey, I'm bringing it back in house. And so from that time, that hiring was the only way that I could do it.
Because you can't do everything yourself. So I mean, having somebody to help you makes sense too.
Yep. And I truly believe that no one's ever going to care about your asset like you do. And that goes for even someone you hire, but we're talking every day. I'm on group text with all the contractors. I know, even if she's the one implementing the stuff, I'm still informed every step and I'm still the ultimate decision maker, which I think that you lose out on sometimes with property management.
Yep. And listen, it really depends on the type of property you have too. Like if you have a 100-unit apartment building, you are hiring a property management company. And
I'm not.
Oh, you're not? I love it. I love that. I love that about you.
I would just build the property management company.
Great.
So you'll develop the team to basically fit the property if you have that.
Okay, so that's great. So we are kind of getting to our end here, but I wanted to wrap up with a couple of things. I want to talk about your next steps, legacy, and what are the plans for Jessie Lang?
Nick, you're not the first person to ask me this, and I don't know.
Well, don't tell me you're moving to Is it South Carolina or North Carolina?
North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah. So, what is next? I am starting to explore. I'm looking at some new builds, which I am pretty excited about. I am looking at, this is right up your alley, like a boutique hotel type situation. Yeah, that would be in North Carolina. That probably would be here.
That's it.
Yeah, so that's definitely on the list.
Let me know if you need help designing that boutique hotel.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe my personal house too.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, legacy, we have a coaching program. It's same name as the book, Rentals Made Easy. And the thing, obviously I love what I've built, but being able to translate that to help other people I'm way, way more proud than building my own portfolio. Like helping other people do it is so much more rewarding. And so that's where a lot of my time and energy is going right now, is just building out coaching programs, supporting students. We have 3 calls every single week where we're looking at student deals. We are bringing on experts. We're doing, a lot of mindset work. We're really just taking people from hey, I kind of want to invest in real estate, to having a tangible, not just asset, but a tangible business around it.
Yeah, a game plan and accountability. But what's the first steps? I don't have any rentals. I want to look into getting into putting my money in some place besides the stock market, and it's probably going to be a single family home most likely. I'm not going to jump into a big multifamily or anything. But what's the first step here?
First step. There's many first steps. I'm picking the first step. The first step truly is get around other people who are doing the same thing.
Perhaps at Coin.
Do what?
Perhaps at Coin.
Perhaps at Coin. If you are in Central Ohio, it is a fantastic meetup. 3rd Tuesday of the month. You will see Nick and I there every month, unless we're on our extravagant vacations. And so I would say truly, the tangible steps, get the book. I walk you through them step by step. Join the program. I walk you through it step by step. But until you believe that not only that method works, but that it works for you. Until you believe that I can do this, you're not going to go anywhere. So the first one is get around people doing it. See that real estate investors, I didn't see myself as an investor for so long because I had this mindset that everyone was evil or, Scrooge McDuck, whatever his name is. And that.
Yep. Diving into the pit of money.
Yeah, exactly right. That you had to be terrible if you were going to be rich. I didn't know any rich people growing up. And so it was what I saw on TV. And to get around people who are actually like quite wealthy, but they're also just normal people was like, mind blowing.
There are wonderful people in this world that also have money. There are.
And if you didn't grow up like that, you don't know that. And so I didn't know. And so my first true step was seeing, hey, normal people can do this, and I can fit in. I can do that too.
I love it.
I'm curious too. You speak about like mindset as well. Do your students or people that come to kind of get advice, is there a certain mindset that they have in vision that you kind of have to say, well, it's not exactly like that. Like it's more about this or more, it's not just about getting a big pile of money. It's more about whatever, having a system in place that you can take a vacation without stress and worry.
Yeah. I'm telling you, I look back, it's like all of us. We look back at every part of our story, and each thing that you learned like has a piece in who you are today. And so I do feel like I've been through it, and I can kind of coach to all that stuff. And I'm like, don't do that. I did that. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, Paul, you're exactly right that people come in and maybe they're thinking, hey, this is going to happen overnight.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, it's not going to happen overnight. If you're serious and focused, it can happen quickly, but it won't be overnight. Right. And so that's a really big one that I kind of, I don't want to say correct, but, coach to that.
Yeah. It depends on a lot. I mean, it depends on the market. It depends on the rates. There's probably 20 different factors that come into play, right? In terms of like what's going to impact a timeline overall.
Yeah, I would venture to say like even the properties I buy now, I'm still nervous to a certain extent because I probably don't have as good assistants as you, Jessie, but I'm still a little bit nervous, and I'm like, the margins are razor sharp in some cases, but 5 years go by and I look like a genius. And it's like today it's so hard, but tomorrow
But look 5 years in the future.
It's almost not fair. Like I feel like I'm cheating. Yeah.
I think that's just a cultural thing too. Like everybody wants everything now, right? Like today. And so like I could definitely see like, well, if I make this investment 6 months from now, I should be sitting pretty. It's like, nah, probably not, but yeah.
Right, which is why I'm telling you.
It's longer than that.
Yeah. I'm telling you, start now. Now is the time.
Start now. They say, the best time to plant a tree was 5 years ago. The second best time's today.
Now.
Like the exact same. The tree is your investments. And yeah.
Jessie, where can we find your book? Where can we find you besides Coin? Tell us all about your socials and stuff.
Yeah. So this is Rentals Made Easy. It is it's a real life book. I wrote a real book, guys.
I bought a copy on Amazon.
Yeah, so it's on Amazon. We have a Kindle version if you like e-reader like I do. We also have a paperback if you're more of like a notes taker, or, it's really a reference book. You can jump to the section on lending when you're in that section. You don't have to read it. I mean, you should, but you don't always have to read it front to back. So it's a good paperback also. We are working on a audiobook.
Very good, because I had to use AI to actually Danny did it for us.
Yeah.
We converted the text version to AI so we could listen to the audio. We tried to get a voice that sounded somewhat like yours.
It's impossible. There's only one. If you get a robot me, that would be pretty.
I was gonna say after this recording, Danny can probably whip something up.
So I checked. We gotcha.
Yeah.
And so they're on Amazon. We are a bestseller, so that's exciting. And outside of that, my Instagram is Jessie Lang Official. And then my Facebook group is a great place where you can come ask questions. I do free trainings. I go live every single Tuesday at 2:00 Eastern. And we cover all topics of real estate that you could possibly imagine.
Amazing. Danny's going to put all that in our show notes. So we'll be sure to do that for our audience. Any final words that you'd like to leave us with?
Y'all, just go do it. Believe in yourself. Like, seriously, I was working that W-2, the one here in Columbus, got turned down for that raise, and I was like crying on my kitchen floor. And my lovely wife, Laura, looked at me and she was like, just quit. And I didn't really have a plan. And I did. I just quit, and I will never look back. I will never not work for myself again.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so worth it. I worked harder now than I ever worked for anyone else, if that's even possible, because I was working pretty dang hard before.
I said the
but
same
you're gonna
thing.
Work even harder for yourself when you're, your family, and you see the results. They're your results. Like, just get out of your own freaking way and just do it.
Jessie, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks
it was
for having
great.
me.
This has been the Arcfluence podcast. As always, you can get more information and additional content on arcfluence.com. Please subscribe on the platform of your choice and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you.